if gyms are marketing the same way, and you go, well, we actually only need 25 or 30 people, and you can be very specific in that marketing and not do the sexy buns look and do the hearts and lungs look, then, and you only need 20, then I've got a fair idea that 20 people who are training with you or in your facility for hearts and lungs will probably stay a lot longer than 20 people in a gym who are there for arms and buns.
Welcome to today's session. This is the Marketing Muscle Up podcast show, and it's a very special edition because we are live here at our Common Immersive. Everybody give it a shout. All right, very good. So what we're going to do today, we've got a great session lined up. We've got two industry legends here, and we are talking about 2023 and marketing. So if you are new to the show, I actually think I've had both of these guests on the Marketing Muscle Up podcast show before. So if you're live, guys, and you want to tune in, you can simply go to commarketing.com.au and find some past episodes. So we've been at a 2-day Commercive the last 2 days, and we've talked all things 8-week marketing plans. We've talked about how to create 5 funnels in your marketing. We've been smashed with a lot of different suggestions on retention strategies and local outreach. We did some roundtables this morning, our community, and I'm going to talk about where the future is of fitness first. Before we do so, let me create some bios for these two gents. So JT's been in the industry for a long time, a lot of experience with being in one particular niche for a long time. That's what I like about it. He also owns the world's largest business fitness podcast. And if you haven't listened to that, you should definitely take a listen to that one. He runs roundtables all around the world, Rex training, consultant industry, and spoken at many different industry events. So welcome, JT. Give a big round of applause. And I've also got Barrie, who is the CEO of AusActive Industry, formerly known as Fitness Australia, for those who know that name. AusActive is the new name. And Barrie's come to the industry from a childcare industry background and bringing new insights in the industry. And I love when people come outside the industry because it makes our industry way better because I actually see the roadblocks, the problems. And Barrie said multiple times that I'm emotional. I just want to really grow this industry. And that he has done. He's done some amazing growth over COVID, especially over the last 2 years, which we might get into. Welcome to the show. Big round of applause to Barrie.
Okay.
All right, so let's get into it. And first question I have, JT, you just got off the plane. Came here from the US, pretty much. How in between, talk about what the trends are that you're seeing over there and the difference here. Are we behind? Are we on track? Where do we need to be looking at in 2023? What are you seeing?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. And I kind of wonder sometimes whether we look at the US and think, gee, we're miles behind the US. And in all reality, we're not. In so many instances, particularly in our industry, we are at the cutting edge, but I think particularly around the physical training side of things. Some of the world's leading exercise specialists come out of Australia, and we should be really proud of that. Even Les Mills in New Zealand, is now a world force for group training, group fitness. So we're not actually as far behind the US as we might think. Certainly there are trends, and the reason why they're trends is simply, again, there's people there. So your little studio or your little boutique or your little concept that you've got in the US, you can attract 500 people and it becomes trendy. Here, we might attract 50 and it's trendy in Beecroft, like one little suburb.
This is timing. It takes time.
Correct. One of the really things that happens in the US that doesn't happen in Australia that I'm aware of, I'm not sure how to say this politically correct, but there's a whole layer in the fitness industry in the US of what they call trust babies. So I went into a club over there and had a look at it and went, wow, this is amazing. And it cost them $1 million to design and fit out. It's not any money. But it keeps the son employed.
And he's good at spending money.
And dad works and does something else and kind of funds this. So we don't actually have that. Well, I've never heard of trust fund baby running gyms in Australia. It may well exist, but there's a whole layer of that in the US, which almost means that when we're comparing numbers, data to data, these clubs aren't making money, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't help us at all when you're trying to compare. And I know there's probably some people in the room here going, I wouldn't mind. How do I become a trust fund baby? I'd put it on every profile that I've got, and I still can't find someone that's going to take me on.
Someone trust you.
No one trusts me. But like just from, real basics, certainly the number one trend I would say in the US at the moment from a service delivery is recovery. Recovery is a massive component of clubs and what we're trying to do. And it really bore out of two things. Number one was Planet Fitness coming into the market and offering hydro massage and being able to upgrade a $10 a month membership to $17, $18, $19 a month US. So that all of a sudden had everybody thinking about how do we build wellness to our product. And it really has grown from there. And the second thing that it's been driven by is during the pandemic, club owners in the US, perhaps a little bit differently to some owners here in Australia, they wanted to get maximum dollars return on every part of their club. So they were finding little corners and putting in a Therabody gun or Normatec boots. Every single space in a club, they try to work out how they can earn income from. And I think that's a great lesson for us in Australia.
Yeah, so good. These are great lessons already, some great gold there. I like the concept of the trend is happening because there's just more population over there. I think sometimes we think that, they're the giants, they know best, but you're right. There's a lot of amazing operations coming out of here.
So the data out of the US is from San Francisco, south of San Francisco in California, Mexican border, there are the same number of fitness professionals in that space as there are in the entire country of Australia.
Wow.
So it gives you some sort of idea of how vast that industry is. And in fact, I believe there's more fitness facilities south of San Francisco than there are in Australia.
Well, and that's certainly also, we were talking about Facebook ads today and the cost of Facebook ads. And, I think back in the day when we were uneducated about Facebook ads, we'd always compare it to US markets and how much it would cost over there. And I think all these things have to take in consideration, especially when you are comparing apples to apples,
Pretty difficult to compare.
I want to move to you and kind of like ask you the question around 2022, moving into 2023. I'd sort of like to know if you could look at, now you can look at the shiny kind of ball of what happened over 2022. What are you seeing as, one great thing that came out of this year and the opportunity that, is looming on our doorstep for next year?
Yeah, and look, before I answer that question, I'd just like to acknowledge Mel Tempest, who was inducted into our Roll of Honour at our awards just recently. So, no, pleasure, Mel.
Mel spent the last 2 days with the Common Mercy, if you are listening to this, and she actually had a great roundtable this morning. Full numbers on her table. Well done. Yeah.
Before I'd like to answer that question a different way around. I come to the question you asked JT with a slightly different lens. JT has got the industry insight, which he should have been in industry for so long. But I think philosophically, I think we're actually ahead of America, to be quite honest. And why do I say that? This is where it comes to the question, what have we learned from COVID? What we learned from COVID was that our industry, and I don't use the term fitness, we have consciously moved away from the term fitness, which is why we're no longer called Fitness Australia. And now Oz Active, because we now talk about movement, active recreation, exercise, physical activity, and so on. And that's a very conscious decision of Fitness Australia to do that because it relates to what we've learned from COVID. So when you heard the politicians during the lockdowns and the chief health officers, they never said you can go outside to get fit. They said you can go outside to exercise. And what COVID has done for us, and this is why I think we are ahead of the States, is actually give the opportunity for policymakers in health, government and the rest of it to understand and appreciate the role that our sector inclusive, that includes Pilates, yoga, dance, Tai Chi, all that sort of stuff, has in Australia's preventative health environment. It's actually brought it to the forefront. And where we're also, I think, ahead of the States is the data coming out of AusPlay, which is a government agency. This isn't AusActive's data, shows that 30% of Australians over the age of 15 go to the gym at least once a year. Let me repeat that. 30% of Australians over the age of 15 go to a gym at least once a year. Now that raises all kinds of questions about how do you get them back in again? Why don't they come back? And you know the answers to that as well as I do. But that 30% participation rate is much more than I was told when I started at then Fitness Australia 4 years ago. I was told 20% was the max. You'll never get more than 20%. We're operating at 30%. We are the second most popular physical activity in Australia after recreational walking. Again, I'm not making this up. This is data from AusPlay. This data is also being read by the health departments. So all of a sudden, a couple of things start to twig here. I think we have grossly undersold the importance of our sectors, generic. I think we've been talking to ourselves. We've been looking too much as what is the franchise down the road doing? What is that guy doing? Rather than what am I doing in our community? And I think the opportunity moving forward and the lessons we have learned, if we don't capitalise on the opportunity in front of us now, your counterparts are going to be sitting in a room with Richard and JT, not me because I'll be dead, in 10 years' time saying, how do we miss that opportunity? The opportunity is there, but we really have to, I think about this a little bit differently. So just remember that 30%, 8 million Australians go to a gym at least once a year. That is streets ahead of America. Okay, so I think they are focused on trends. That's America. We should be focused on how do we get involved in the community? How do we prove to policymakers and governments and all the rest of it that we are a critical, if not the critical component of Australia's preventative health area. It's no coincidence that last year Queensland classified gyms as an essential service, one of the only places in the world. That decision was not made by the Department of Sport and Rec, it was made by the Chief Health Officer. Okay, so there is lots of opportunities.
And just on that, for those who don't know, I'd love just to continue this conversation. The biggest change that I've seen AusActive make, especially since you've been aboard, is the whole health insurance rebates and so forth. Does everybody know about that, by the way? Half you not. Can you just touch on that? Because I think this is, like we talk about sales and marketing. I actually think this is the sale and the marketing piece that a lot of us I don't think are really seeing the money play in this in regards to marketing and sales, just to get more people through the doors. Can you touch on that?
Yeah, so we've just moved house, my wife and myself, across the other side of the harbour, and I did a little bit of market research when I chose my new gym. I didn't say who I was or what my role was, and went to 4 gyms to basically decide which gym I would choose. And a couple of things I learned was you can go to a franchise gym, have an expectation that it's going to have a certain fit out, certain equipment, certain cleanliness and the rest of it. Well, I learned very quickly that is not the case. And I'm really surprised that franchises don't have minimum standards. Maybe they do, but they're not adhered to. Anyway, so I've joined a new gym, and I was this morning, I left and I said to the guy at the counter, "One of your PTs members of AusActive?" And he looked at me quizzically and said, "What's that?" And I said, "Well, Fitness Australia." And he said, "What's that?" "How long have you been a PT?" "Oh, about 12 years. "Okay, how many PTs here are members of?" "Oh, I'm not sure." "Why are you asking?" "Oh, because I'm a member of Medibank. And if your PTs are members of AusActive, Medibank would pay for my activity here at this gym." He's going to go off now do some research. So Medibank came to us about this time last year and
He's
said,
now following you on Instagram. He's got you on LinkedIn.
So Medibank came to us last year and said, "We want to work with you because we want to provide more benefits for our members, Medibank members. And we only want to do this with AusActive." And we signed an agreement. It's just been renewed as of this week, another 12 months, whereby if you're a Medibank member like I am, you can use your membership to help pay for either a gym membership or PT lessons. As long as you've got a Cert 4 or above, you can do that. Now, Medibank also have said to us, part of the deal is you need to introduce a new standard for your PTs. They must be accredited within 12 months. Otherwise, you're going to lose that provider status. Now, that to me was gold. However, with every gold mine comes Lassiter's gold, the fool's gold. We've got 700 PTs currently going through accreditation. Only 16 have complied with it. So we actually have done something wrong in AusActive. So we're going to go back and take that all apart and redo it, because there's no good having a product out there that is not resonating with your members. I think Fitness Australia's do that in the past a little bit, but so we're going to take that apart and do it again. But the moral of the story is, and this comes back to my earlier comments, the opportunity is there, but government is not going to recognise us unless we actually lift our game. And that's the responsibility of all of us.
Let's talk about that lift in the game for a second. And first of all, I think a big round of applause for that one, because that's a huge, I think it's a huge moment of growth in our industry that you can definitely start to take that aboard. And yeah, if you're not an active member, you should definitely plug into that straight away. But in regards to...
Can I just add something to that?
Yeah.
Most of you are not anywhere near the same age as me.
Me.
Or Barrie for that matter. But I got an email from my life insurance company a month ago that said if I could prove that I was active and they did talk about BMI, which of course makes me morbidly obese, being is it a mesomorph or an ectomorph? I don't know, but whatever I am. But if you could prove that you were physically active, I would get a 10% discount on my life insurance policy.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm like, that's the first time I've ever got that email.
And that's related to this opportunity.
Massive, it's huge for us.
Huge opportunity, huge opportunity. So why is it then that we are still all focused around the trends and the hacks? And I mean, yes, we're all talking about community. What's the secret of community? We keep talking about community, but is it just this group that is plugged into community, or how do we get everybody else understanding this opportunity that is in our doorstep? Are they getting it? Are we getting it as an industry? Are we on track? Are we on track, or are we just not? Are we coming into deaf ears at the moment?
I think in all reality, if personal training was 100% free and gym memberships were 100% free, we still wouldn't have any greater penetration. Unfortunately, the reality for us is the product that we deliver, for those listening, I'm using air commas, hurts people, and it's not the same, and it's hard work to get the results. And we have a positioning problem as an industry and our product.
Yeah.
I think our industry, certainly coming out of COVID, has changed our perception for so many people. We still got a long way to go, but the product of exercise, it still needs some massaging so that the general public, across there, I was looking
Like, got meat pies today across there. Those guys there.
We go in there, I reckon we've probably only 2 out of the 20 guys in there work out, and there's the 10%. But we've got to, I think it's great from AusActive dropping the word fitness, and we've got to get back to movement, and we've got to get to exercise. We will get there, but it's just going to be a slower process.
See, I've got to disagree with you again. Sorry, JT.
You can do that.
We know again from the data that 1 out of 2 people, use the gym as their preferred exercise. Okay?
Yeah.
So it's the second most popular exercise after recreational walking, and 1 out of 2 people choose to go to a gym. And they go to a gym park or yoga and Pilates with, they might do yoga and Pilates in a gym where they go to a facility. 1 out of 2 will do that. The other interesting research which has just come out is that a lot of Australians are now thinking about starting an exercise regime because of COVID and all the emphasis on exercise and mental health, which is another great thing which has come out of COVID, the importance of exercise, not fitness, exercise for mental health. And 1 out of 2 of those people thinking about starting exercise are thinking about going to a gym. So just go back a step. In 2018, those of you we signed up to an international campaign to get 15% more Australians more active by 2030. Our previous federal government 4 years ago signed up and did nothing. But if we can get 15% more Australians more active, that doesn't mean going to a gym. It means walking, cycling, swimming, whatever. One out of two of those people are going to go to a gym because the data is there. So the membership, the potential is there to grow significantly past the 30%. We've got to grab this opportunity. I sound like a broken record, I know, but it's staring us in the face. We have to grab the opportunity.
I would suggest that what you guys learned this morning about your funnels, that's the key to getting them from thinking to acting. So 1 in 2 might be thinking about joining a gym, but they're not actually joining yet. So your funnels where you're educating people and not just trying to sell them, but you're educating them and building that relationship with what Richard teaches you, that converts somebody from thinking to acting.
And I think when we touch on marketing of that, it'd be really great if you haven't yet, and you're really stuck in this fitness world, and you go, yeah, this is a good opportunity, but I can't see how I do it. I'd love to, just test one random marketing campaign and really market to those guys next door we're talking about, market to someone who's not active, and just test and measure, like Ev says, just trial it out and see actually what happens, because that's how we have some more of that stuff. And it's totally against what what everybody else is doing for the trend and the strip bodies, that kind of stuff. But the data is here.
Can I just ask you a question, Richard? I don't know the guys at next door, but from what you've said, it sounds like they're an older group of men.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you saying none of them are doing exercise?
Because I'll tell you why. Because we had healthy salad, we had healthy meals.
Yeah. I understand that. Yeah, but why are you saying not doing exercise?
I was watching the move.
That was JT.
But I mean, do we suffer from prejudice when we're talking about when people walk into our gym?
Yeah.
And I've just moved from a gym at Kensington, which is full of young Asian students because it's near the university. And I was the oldest guy there by a country mile. The new one I'm going to now, there's other people my age. And if you saw these guys walking down the street, you would say, that guy doesn't exercise. But I can assure you he does. So we've got to be really careful when we sort of say that person is not a potential member of my gym or my, to engage my personal trainer. That prejudgment is doing us a lot of harm. And that's actually one of the reasons why people don't walk through the door, because they sense that prejudgment before they step through the door.
There's some gyms now that are starting to launch where the whole market is over 50s.
Yeah.
Right. Talking about that, is that, do you think that's a positive play?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, my generation, we've got the time. We've got the money. We've got the I'm talking generically, we've got the money. We've got the inclination to prove to our partners, to the general community, we've still got it. You've got 3 strong motivations there. For God's sake, don't ignore them. But don't do what I've seen in the past, where an old guy's come into a gym and he's been unleashed on a young personal trainer. The personal trainer, the first thing he did was get on that bike and go hard for 5 minutes. And I thought the guy was going to cark it. Horses for courses, context. The new gym I've just started, no pre-exercise screening tool. None at all. No, here's the stress alarm. And after what happened in Snap this week or last week in, up there, we've got to get our act together, guys, because the opportunity to go into health is very strong, but if we don't get our act together, we will be crucified, and so we should be.
All right, so what words should we be using? What words, if we were to choose 3 or 4 words, what are the words that Oz Active, what are we saying that we should be using out there in the market?
Well, the first one would be inclusion. Stop the prejudgment, and that's related to inclusion, I suppose, and grab the opportunity. Just over the 3 words, grab the opportunity. I'm that glass to me is more than half full.
Great, very good. We have a specific question, do we?
I'll do it. About what
one sec.
Throughout COVID, we consistently said to people to change the type of marketing that they were doing, to remove the sexy, sweaty images, and to put out there that we were all inclusive communities, that everybody's welcome, all shapes and sizes. A lot of clubs didn't do this. They stuck with what they know because they were too frightened to jump over the fence and try something different. Do you think because clubs aren't changing the perception of who we are, that this is part of the reason why we're having so many problems with state politicians and with people walking through the front doors to join gyms?
Sorry, T, I've been talking too much. You can answer that.
Oh, I would probably say the same thing, I think, on this one, Barry. 100%, Mel. I mean, you nailed it. The perception, we propagate the perception of how intimidating gyms are. And I think, you know, for the people listening to the podcast virtually or even here in the room, I know a little bit about Richard's market, and probably for the majority of people in his client base, this is actually a huge opportunity for you. Because if gyms are marketing the same way, and you go, well, we actually only need 25 or 30 people, and you can be very specific in that marketing and not do the sexy buns look and do the hearts and lungs look, then, and you only need 20, then I've got a fair idea that 20 people who are training with you or in your facility for hearts and lungs will probably stay a lot longer than 20 people in a gym who are there for arms and buns.
Yeah. And just on Mel's point, I mean, we've been very guilty ourselves in the past as Fitness Australia. Also, I was active of putting the wrong images up. We are trying, we are aware of this, and we're trying to put up more inclusive images, but it's a work in progress. So please don't sort of say you're a hypocrite, mate. You're talking about that. It is a working, we're aware of it. We're trying to address it as quickly as we can.
Yeah, one sec.
One of the other areas that people aren't tapping into is the LGBTQIA community, and I hope I got all the letters right there. One of the things that we've done over the last 12 months is started to use some of our marketing that targets these guys, and we've found that we've had quite a few people join our club based on the fact that that's how we've sold that we are inclusive, including transgender people. So perhaps just we need to also, though we need to advertise to obese people and that we fight chronic illness, we also need to remember these guys in our community. We also need to be marketing to them because they need somewhere to come that creates better mental health for them as well. So there's a huge opportunity out there for clubs, even just to put the Pride Love Heart on their website. And that alone says to people that you're a welcoming community.
Great.
Yeah. And Mel, just because a person doesn't look obese or diabetes doesn't mean they're well, because
Absolutely.
I'm a person that's experienced mental health issues myself. You cannot tell who fit.
Yeah, absolutely. And that comes back to perception.
Yeah.
And it's the one thing that you don't know because it's never gifted to you.
Good point.
Thank you, Mel. All right. Super interesting conversation. And I think these are super relevant to, you know, we can, you know, as JT just said, I mean, we really can start this instantly, test it out fast. When you're referring to, you know, boutique studios versus, let's say, a large franchise, just continue that conversation a little bit. I mean, how much of a head start, and you're working with larger clubs, how much of a head start do we have on this before, you know, larger facilities really tap on and actually change everything they do to get people into the doors?
Oh, to me, it's massive. Like the speed at which you can move is just incredible. It's light speed. So, you know, the equivalent is a ship liner, cruise liner, and turning around in the turning circle. You guys are in a dinghy and you can spin on a dime and then take off in a different direction. You know, I was at a conference this morning and their new app will come out possibly October or November next year. It's like, wow, what are you doing to that app? We're changing some of the images to be more inclusive. Like, surely you do that faster than that. Now, there's other bits to it as well. But I think the fact that the size of your businesses can, in fact, be extremely advantageous for you. You just got to have the courage to put a Pride Love Heart on your website, or the courage to stand out and say, hey, these are the types of people that we welcome. And also the patience, because I don't think putting that on your website or having an image on a piece of your marketing will produce results like that. We know that's not going to happen. But if you are persistent in your marketing, eventually, and that's the key word that I think the fitness industry, needs to embrace is eventually we'll get 40% of the population working out in clubs. Eventually you'll have 50 clients, 100 clients, but we have to embrace eventually. It's not overnight. That's the most important thing.
Talking about embracing, I want to just go back a little bit and touch on a bit of technology questions here. You know, our communities and a lot of communities in the fitness industry, trainers and professionals have switched to a virtual model. Some have stopped that now. Some are still on it now. When we talk about being inclusive, we talk about hitting all marketplaces. What are your thoughts on the future of a hybrid model, the future of online trainers? What has to happen to get that percentage up more? What are your thoughts, Barrie?
I think there's certainly a place for online training. It's related to that question about how to get people into a gym. A lot of people will start exercising in the comfort of their own bedroom, the lounge, dining room, whatever themselves, and they'll feel more comfortable doing that at home. But it is not a substitute, obviously. And I was talking to Mel before about, you know, her particular facility and my experience in gyms and stuff as well. Those that build communities with their membership are the ones that really have survived very well through COVID. They're the ones that are going to grow because they've got, you know, word of mouth and all the rest of it. You cannot get a community virtually, in my view. You've got to have that face-to-face. But if you use the virtual as a funnel to bring people in, let them feel comfortable with their body shape, their outfit, whatever it might be, their mental state, their physical state, they start the exercise journey. They start to learn the benefits of exercise, the endorphins and the rest of it. They will start to seek out other regimes. They'll start to seek, and particularly if they've got someone who can sort of say, look, you know, come in on this day here, it's a quiet day. We've got someone else in here who's you know, in a similar situation to yourself. So I think there's a market for it, but it can never be a substitute, because that our industry, and I say our now being part of it, is very much a person-to-person industry, and you cannot get that virtually.
I want to touch on then to react on that what you just said. I mean, there's been some massive online players that have recently sold their online businesses for 500 million, 100 million. Kayleen Stein, Sam Woods. Do we classify, because whenever I look at someone who's been in the industry a long time, to me, it feels like they're not part of the industry somehow. However, they've got millions of people working at home. Can you just touch on that? Because I don't hear much about, when we say online world, we're saying, okay, let's do hybrid, but what about pure online? And they're not really meeting up, Barrie. I mean, where do they fall?
Look, you're probably asking the wrong person. But
no, I'm asking the right person.
Okay, all right. Well, I see the Kyla Itzenese, however you say it, as that's a part of our market, but it's not necessarily reflective of our market. You see her sort of fans coming into a gym, they do an exercise for 5 seconds and spend 5 minutes taking photos of themselves in the gym and that sort of thing. I'm not joking. You see it. It happens. So I think that's a part. It's the same part of our industry that still has young men standing in front of you know, mirrors pumping iron, and there's, and you know, they might have tattoos all over their body, and there might be a girl with tattoos all over, I don't know, but they are the fringe. I think the market opportunity we have is the 80% of the community. Now my age, I'm not going to watch, well, I wouldn't admit to it, watching, you know, someone online doing that sort of stuff. I want to get out and be with people. I want to, you know, and that sort of stuff. And I think coming out of COVID, the desire for social connectivity is stronger than ever. People want to get that social, they want to get back in touch with people. And I see that again as the opportunity. So yes, there's a place for that, but I don't see that as, good luck to them for selling out, because I reckon in a few years' time, they wouldn't have got that price for it.
Yeah, great. And so you're seeing that fringe, but it's certainly not going to make up that, you know, 70% that we need.
No.
Great insights. JT, what are your thoughts on that? Is that something different or same?
Pretty similar to Barrie. I think one of the interesting things about hybrid is you have to market to two different groups of people, because as you guys know, 99% of your clients want to come and train with you or your facility. The people that want to train at home is a different market.
Yeah.
Most fitness business owners don't have the skill set to market to two completely different niches, because you really need two completely different budgets, two completely different marketing plans, I think you did 5 funnels this morning, so you're doing 10 funnels, and 5's enough for you guys to work on. So the bandwidth that an owner needs to do on a daily basis to grow both aspects of the business is really hard. For me, I quite like, I'm quite sure they got all their money, not because of their content,
Yes.
but because of their database. And that's
The
really,
records, the stats, the heights, the weights. Yeah.
correct. That's all. That's really where the value was for the companies purchasing it. But I think for us, if somebody wants to do online, let them do online. And that could eventually be the feeder to build the confidence up to then come to a bricks and mortar or an outdoor boot camp or whatever the case may be. But I believe you find your North Star or your why or whatever you want to call it, and then stick to the product that you know that you can deliver better than anybody else in your area, the state, the country, the world. Just do what you do and focus on what you do best, and you will plenty be successful.
Yeah, just a comment about the data side of it. I think if anything, what's happened with Mediabank and Optus has demonstrated to us very much the huge risk in keeping data. And perhaps they might not have sold it for quite so much now if they purchase it for the data, because we're in the process of transmitting or migrating our data across to a new system at AusActive. We've got 100,000 individual entries, individuals, because it goes back 12 years, and we're culling it as much as we can to only migrate across what is legally we have to do. Because the data risk now, I mean, the Smith family got hit the other day. It's, and people are saying to us now, it's not a matter of if, it's when, and it's going to happen. So I think data is a real issue.
And in fact, the data side, Richard, is a really interesting thing from a marketing perspective, with iOS 16 coming out and the way the phones are being built to be able to push spam calls straight to voice message or even not even be answered. What we're seeing in the States from a marketing perspective is they're extremely worried as marketers around what digital marketing is going to look like in 12 months' time, particularly because they're spending 95% of their budget on digital. They're really worried because they don't have the skill set of when Mel and I grew up in the industry of guerrilla marketing and getting out in the community and like having a little booth at the local footy club on a Saturday. Yeah, these guys don't know that. All they know is digital marketing. And if the world changes, which it could at any stage.
You mean they have to talk to somebody?
Instead of automate.
Very good. I'm just taking some questions on virtually. A few of you are saying you can build a community virtually. Hard work, you can do both. A few people disagree with you, Barry, on that one. That's interesting. Some people say, yeah, that's correct. The community is definitely, the face-to-face is definitely the way to go. Love the interaction on that. And I think this is a kind of a new world that we're moving into in 2023. And I think right now we're coming, let's say off the back of COVID, and people are going to make decisions of what they want to do and how they want to play. And do you think the market's going to be adjusted and shifted? What will you, if we kind of wrap this up as our kind of final thought, should we be expecting in 2023? How different will it be to attract our clients to, continue growing instead of like saying, okay, I'm going to just stay stable for this year? What is that one tip to continue growing? And I think we've covered a whole lot of amazing strategies to actually, take that 70% pie. What are your thoughts, Barry, first?
I think the big opportunity to at least start in 2023 revolves around sustainability. When I was walking from the bus stop to here, I passed a cafe which said, "We are proud to be carbon neutral." And I thought, interesting marketing. I wonder how they actually justify that. Are they still using takeaway cups and stuff? And then you think about Mike Cannon-Brookes, who made his money through Atlassian, now buying AGL, and they're going to get out of coal and that sort of gear. I think the first gym or the first franchise group that actually proves that they are practicing sustainability, not just says we are, is going to have a huge market advantage, because it's top of mind for the generation that are our current gym and Pilates and yoga members, that under 40-year-old. I've got two sons, they're both under 40. like, it's all they talk about, climate change, climate change, climate change. So we need to recognise that. We need to adopt climate sustainable practices. To give you an example, because if we don't, it's going to be regulated anyway. So to give you an example, in the European community now, if you use synthetic turf, you can only use synthetic turf that has been certified to be reconstructed from previous synthetic turf. And when it goes from your facility, it has to be recycled back into synthetic turf again. It cannot go to landfill. So that's just one example of what's going to happen here. You should be looking at the wipes you're using. Are they plastic? Are they compostable, not just biodegradable? It's a journey, but I think particularly first franchise group that jumps on this and does it properly is going to have a huge advantage. There's no reason why you, as a single site or a small number of sites, can't do it, as JT would say, turn that dinghy around, start doing it now, because that's your market and they are going to judge you on how you respond to all these things coming forward.
JT, what do you think? What do you think the win that we have to really focus on from your angle in 2023 to continue growing, not just sitting?
Yeah, I think there's a couple. I think number one, and I'm not paid for this, but you should definitely be an AusActive member. You're better to be in the family than out of the family, because.
And just on that point for a second, Barry, how much is an AusActive membership?
Let me put it this way: it's more than paid for by one Medibank customer.
Yep.
Let's leave that. It's about $130 per year, tax deductible, of course. We've also just appointed our first Pilates specialist to the board as of yesterday. So we are now very much into the Pilates yoga market. Tai Chi is the next one off the ranks, and we're looking at martial arts as well.
And so for $130, you know, even if you get a Facebook lead for what, $20, $30, I mean, really, even if anybody's have those private health, I mean, it's paid by 20 times.
But look, please don't focus on the private health. That is one commercial benefit. What's come out of COVID for us is huge growth in our business membership and an entry in the door to government and health departments. It wasn't a coincidence that Queensland made gyms essential, okay? I've had some discussions already with the new government. The previous government was a waste of space. I don't care who you voted for, they're a waste of space in terms of physical activity. The new government is interested in preventative health. We've had a talk to them about reinventing Norm. Those remember Norm and Life Bennett.
Oh.
If we can get a preventative health campaign going, encouraging Joe public to get outdoors, not to go to a gym, that's not going to happen, but to encouraging public to get outdoors and do any exercise, the data tells us 1 out of 2 is going to go to a gym.
I'm just going to finish JT's hot tips off here. There was one tip, AusActive. What were the other hot tips for?
Yeah, I just think, you know, you're better to be in the family than out of the family. And as an industry, we're a lot stronger when we're all together. So that's, you know, I think that's why I think about AusActive. I think the clearer that you are as a business owner on your vision, the better. And what I mean by that is if you're really clear on what you want the business to look like by the end of 2023, then that will help you make lots of business decisions. Everything from where you're going to market, how you're going to market, to how you respond to the Facebook trolls trying to convince you to do business coaching with them, that really you probably get more than enough from comm marketing. You don't need to do anyone else. But when you're clear on where you want to head, then that makes a whole bunch of decisions for you so much easier. And I kind of heard this at a leadership conference that I went to at the beginning of the year, or middle of the year. And what I heard was when you're 100% in on something, you never have to make a decision whether you're on that. So if you're 100% in on being a vegan, you don't decide whether you're going to eat bacon or not. You're 100% in on being a vegan. So when you're 100% in on that vision that you want for your business at the end of 2023, it makes decision-making so much easier for you. But when you're not clear, you're kind of going left, right, and center trying to find what you can do. Be clear on what you want and you're going to be very successful.
I really love that concept. There's 1 or 2 questions. Is that correct? Let's take one question.
I've often thought, and it comes back to what you were saying when you went to that franchise recently. I've worked in a few franchises before, and they're not standard, they're not safe,
No.
they're not, for a blanket of reasons being paid to their staff, cleanliness, all that sort of jazz. How do do you possibly know why there's nobody that comes around checking us all? And like, would there ever be sort of with Oz Active, like that should be recognized, that we all put our hands up and say, hey, you know, we comply, we're safe, we're Oz Active members, like come and train with us type thing. You know, we tick all the boxes to be sustainable, to be safe. We've all got qualifications, because you just don't know, hole in the wall facilities might have trainers that aren't qualified. Like, who checks that?
Yeah, that's a whole other session. But look, very briefly, we're not regulated in Australia, and there's no. I'm told by the franchises that I raise these concerns with that they have their own internal audits. Well, if they do, they're obviously missing the ones that I go to visit. And so let's just leave that where it is. I personally believe, and this might cause a problem, but I personally believe that within 5 years, the industry will be accredited, stroke regulated. So it won't be imposed, it'll be aspirational. And I think that the industry is potentially going to separate into two different parts. I think you're going to have those that want to be part of the preventative health side and those that want to be the other side. And it brings in my early childhood background, and you cannot go to an early childhood service in Australia.
Exactly.
Well, you cannot go to an early childhood service that is not accredited. There's no requirement to be accredited as an early childhood service, by the way, in Australia. But if you want to get the childcare benefit, you have to be accredited. Okay. So I think, and accreditation in early childhood goes from, you don't fail it or pass it, it's working towards it, it's meeting, it's exceeding, it's excellent. I think I would love personally, and I know this could be, you know, red ragable, I would love to see our sector go down that path to give the doctors confidence to be able to prescribe the gym down the road, the personal trainer in the park. That will only come when we raise our standards, lift our standards. And I guess that comes back to JT's comment, he isn't paid for it. We can only do that with a strong industry, talking to health departments and politicians and all the rest of it.
Amazing. Thank you for that insights there. This has been an amazing session. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Now, if you want to follow JT, you can do so on activemanagement.com, is it? .au, or listen to his podcast, the Fitness Business Podcast. And we talked about Oz Active. You can go to Oz Active's website and definitely join up, be a member, and figure out what you need to do to win in the game.
Just one point on that, Richard.
Yes.
I forgot to say, if you are a member of Yoga Australia or one of the Pilates organisation, you get free membership of Oz Active automatically because we recognise that membership. When it comes time to renew, you have to pay for it. But if you're a current member, we will give you a free membership of Oz Active. And
just a shout out for you guys as well. And the reason why I wanted to get you guys on together, because the way the landscape happens in business and in marketing, it's always up and down. And so when you want to get advice, really understand what is the next future bringing. Yes, it is good to see the short-term plays that you're seeing all the time that we talked about today. But when you can see long-term plays from other industries, and listening from JT, listening from Barrie, understanding the longevity, this is where you should be putting your attention. I always say, try to turn off notifications, turn off following 1,000 people, as JT said. Just focus on this is what you're going to be. Focus on 2 or 3 people. That's it. Otherwise, there's a lot of information. Education. Information overload. Anybody can put information out there. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's the right information. Just because you can do a Facebook Live, just because you can get in a podcast, just because you can do these things, doesn't necessarily mean that the person that is delivering it is the person that you should be listening to. So again, I think over this next, year, 2 years, when we are merging into what is the right platform for you, just be careful where you get the information from. Ensure that it's got longevity, because longevity always comes around in cycles of business. So put your hands together for JT, Justin Tamsett, and Barrie Elvish. Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can listen to more on commarketing.com.au. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.